thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. All right. Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, October 7th, and today is National Propane Day.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, bust out the
Make
barbecues.
a bomb or start a fire.
Bust out the barbecues. Todd, why are you always so negative?
Am I negative? Negative.
Yeah.
Start a fire.
Negative Nelly over there, of course. You know what I mean? Let's see. It's also National Trigeminal Neuralgia Awareness Day.
Oh, yeah. If you could say it, then maybe we could be aware.
I just did. I'm actually pretty impressed with myself right there. Mm-hmm. Let's see.
Of course you are.
Yeah. It's National Chocolate Covered Pretzel Day. This one's for you, Todd.
Too many things better than
What's that?
Too many things better than a chocolate covered pretzel.
I could think of a few.
They're made good, you know. You can have some good ones every once in a while.
I don't
mind them.
I think they're all right. I think they're kind of overrated, but you know, they're whatever.
Yeah, that's what I said.
For the people that like them, yeah. For the people that like them, I think the yogurt covered pretzels are way better.
They're good enough to get their own day. Oh.
Well, that just means they have a good lobbyist, like somebody like me, Todd, to get stuff done for them.
Or just any random person can just go on and sign up for these things.
Oh, you're not supposed to give out the secrets, Michael.
We did April's Cannabis Awareness Month, if you guys didn't know, and I think a group over here in Florida signed up and created that.
Yeah, see, but that's a whole month. We're talking just about the days, man. Yep. Just the days. Strictly the days. It's also, Todd, you're going to love this. It's National Inner Beauty Day.
Oh, that's important.
Yeah.
That's so important.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only thing that's important to get people's minds and health right mentally, I really think.
Fair
Love
enough.
Thyself, baby. Love thyself.
Fair enough. Then it's also National LED Light Day for all you greenies out there that want to ruin everything by not allowing us to have real light bulbs.
Oh, you don't like LEDs?
I mean, they're okay, but they're, you know, I think people should be able to have the choice of what they want. Who cares?
You prefer wasting energy?
I have no problem wasting energy
that the plant doesn't even want.
You're talking about plants lighting, and those are not LED lights. Those are high pressure sodiums. Those are the ones that really kick. And so, yes, high pressure sodiums are way better than LED lights. Those LED lights suck.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
You have no idea.
Mixed responses from growers.
Yeah,
you know, and the combination of both definitely seems to work for some. And you know, the cost of electric goes down significantly for those that use the LEDs. I mean,
and the cost of lighting, and you feed the plant the.
You know, this is the thing. Is if we brought back nuclear power, we wouldn't have any of these problems, and we could just use as much energy as we want and not have anything to worry about it.
Yeah, or if
we had better energy policies in general.
Yeah, or just not a lot of greed and stuff in the energy policies, so free energy keeps on being destroyed and hidden.
Exactly. And we have unlimited water too, because the most expensive thing with desalinizing water is the cost of energy. Todd, just saying. No droughts.
Thank you for that.
No droughts anywhere.
We use
no
more
droughts.
windmills.
No droughts.
Your buddy,
those
buddy
windmills, they're
windmills.
terrible, man. They kill the birds.
Well, of a sudden you're worried about birds.
I'm always worried about the birds, especially in New York. All the seagulls that get caught up in all the wind turbines. It's also National Frappe Day.
That is.
You don't know what Frappe is? It's like a little coffee. Yeah, it's that little.
Oh, a frappuccino.
Yeah, Frappe. You know this the little Frappe, the little foamy part on top of the coffee. You know what I mean?
Never have
Frappe.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've never heard Frappe.
It's Frappe. Frappe.
Is that the
yeah.
French version?
Yeah, that's how you say it, Frappe. But I like saying Frappe. It's more classy. Well, you know what?
When you shop at Target, you go get a frappe.
Mm-hmm. It's also National Fruit at Work Day today. So, bring some strawberries or something to work, apparently. Yeah. And finally, Todd. It is Tuesday, Todd. And today is the official National Taco Tuesday today.
Nice. Have yourself a Taco Tuesday.
Yes. Talk about it Tuesday. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.high9news.com. So thank you to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And kicking off today, we have a nice little gaslighting story for you because fatal crash report finds nearly half of deadly wrecks are tied to illegal drugs, they say. That's right. And THC levels in hundreds of crash victims, I found it interesting they said crash victims, far exceed the legal limits across all states. That's right. A growing number of marijuana users are driving while high, and it's costing them their lives, they say. More than 40% of victims of fatal vehicle accidents over the past 6 years have had elevated levels of THC in their blood, a new study shows. The drug screenings were performed during the autopsy process, and THC, the main psychoactive compound in the cannabis plant, is what causes the high feeling or euphoria that is associated with using the drug. The Wright State University led study, that's not LED study, Todd, but the lead study, which was published in the Journal of American College of Surgeons, reviewed data for 246 deceased Ohio drivers. The researchers found nearly 42% tested positive for THC with an average blood level of 30.7 nanograms per milliliter, according to the press release. Those levels remained high over a 6-year period, despite the state recently legalizing adult use cannabis. And the levels found in the study were far higher than the legal limit for THC in Ohio and in Nevada. The limit is 2 nanograms per milliliter, and it is 5 nanograms per milliliter in Colorado. Washington and Nevada and many other states have a zero tolerance laws, which means any detectable amount of THC is grounds for a DUI charge and may require proof of impairment, sources state. The research is set to be presented this week at the American College of Surgeons Clinical Congress 2025 in Chicago. In a quote, "I was surprised to see that level," said the lead author, Afoki P. Uka, a professor of surgery at Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio, in the press release. "An average level of 30.7 nanograms per milliliter generally means these people must have consumed marijuana at some time close to driving. This isn't about residual use, it's about recent consumption," he says. Ika also pointed out that over the past few years, there have been a push towards adult use cannabis, and he says, "The problem is that from a public health standpoint, there has not been enough emphasis on some of the downsides and the dangers that can occur," he said in the study article. "People should treat smoking marijuana just like they treat alcohol. Don't smoke and drive." Dr. Laura Markley, medical director of addiction services in Akron Children's in Ohio, emphasized the dangers of driving high and says, "THC slows reaction time, clouds judgment, and dulls coordination. And those few seconds of delay can be the difference between a near miss and a fatal crash." Markley, who was not involved in the study, told Fox News Digital. Even amounts under the legal level may not be safe, the doctor warned. And emerging research shows that any amount of THC can impair driving, and allow the growing strength of modern cannabis products may make that impairment worse or last longer, she said. While the science is still developing, the trend toward higher potency reinforces a simple truth: no form of cannabis use is safe before driving. And even those who have a high tolerance to THC will have slower reflexes, less reliable judgment, and narrower focus, according to Markley. Fox News Digital reached out to the study researchers for comment, but none was provided. Well, I'm just going to tell you that this sounds like a whole bunch of baloney, malarkey to me, mainly because they talk about the fact of these victims. Okay, and it doesn't say that these victims were the cause of the crash, the cause of the accidents. These people were victims. These people could have been very well easily hit by drunk drivers or people on pharmaceutical meds or any other thing like that. It just, this is a total bias study, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Go for it, Todd, first.
Sure. I think that, obviously driving under the thing are good, but I think weed is in a different class.
Yeah.
Than
a higher class.
Alcohol, certainly a higher class. Yeah. Ambien, right? All of these horrible drugs that people are taking, and nobody's worried about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They're not worried about all of these horrible drugs that people are addicted to, and people are using all over the place. But typical stoners will usually say, "Hey, I drive better high than I do, not high."
Yeah,
I think of cannabis when I'm driving as a traffic stress equalizer.
Yeah,
when I lived in Los Angeles, that's what I used to call it. Right?
I say it prevents road rage, Todd.
Yeah, it 100% does.
Yeah,
I think if more people smoked weed, we'd all get along.
Yeah, and I think it's a little biased too that they're just basing this information based off of the autopsy, just based off of levels in blood of dead people. I think is a little disingenuous too, because that's not indicative of whether or not the person was high when they consumed. Although these doctors are trying to say, oh, that was a high nanogram count in there, 37%. But I'm not buying a lot of that either.
They have nothing to equate that nanogram figure to, right? It's just like a made up number.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
At least with, blood alcohol level, right? You can definitely see impairment, right? When someone is, over the 0.8 or whatever it is where you, right?
Yeah. It's 0.8.
I think that blood tests are not good for cannabis consumption because it stays in your blood for at least 30 days. And there has to be some kind of roadside test in order to
it just needs to be a simple, normal, commonsensical test of whether or not the person can stand up on their own, they can function, you know what I'm saying? Oh. Like I don't mind following the pen left to right, right to left. Like that's not a big deal. Exactly. Exactly. See? Exactly.
He's obviously under the influence.
Yep.
Really.
And these DEI experts, they feed them so much misinformation. It's ridiculous. Do you have DEI experts out there in Florida, Michael?
You just say DEI experts?
Yeah, they're drug. DRIs. Sorry, DRIs.
Yeah.
Drug recognition expert. DREs. Sorry, DREs.
So we do. I actually have a case coming up where we have one, and this has been an issue for a long time. So the first thing I would do is question the people that are doing the study. Number one. Number two, there is no correlation between, especially if they're doing urine tests and things of that nature. Mostly, the result is an inactive metabolite. So it just means that you use within some period of time. Could be 30 days, could be 45 days, depending on whether or not you're a regular smoker. In addition to that, regular smokers, people who use cannabis on a daily basis, which there's plenty of studies done by NHTSA that have proved that people who smoke more often are less likely to be affected and have any issues with driving than those who are new users. So those people's levels will always be higher than in some of these states and the limits that they have. And realistically, so there's not a correlation, a causation effect there. there may be, so someone could have smoked a month ago and get in an accident today and still be testing positive, creating these false numbers.
Yep.
NHTSA has done multiple studies on this and shown that these type of issues are inaccurate. And that's our National Highway Safety Traffic Administration organization that have determined that, impairment for number one is different than you are under the influence of nothing. So it could be anything. The DUI test, the roadside test are not calculated for cannabis use. And honestly, I do have an expert who believes that they're basically made for people to fail, whether or not you're under the influence of something or not. If you do them correctly, I mess around with people all the time and have them do them because I've worked with them a lot, so I know all the different ones that they use. So, they're really a fallacy that creates that. The HGN is typically considered one of the most accurate determiners of impairment, and that's when you stand and you move your eyes. So it's very interesting, and I've done it on tons of people. But you can actually see a person's eye skipping. Usually you have smooth pursuit, so you move your eyes. There's no movement.
No
but
speed bumps.
When you are under the influence of alcohol, it does actually like jump, kind of like when you're singing a song with the bouncing ball.
Yeah.
Right? The eye does kind of do that. And it doesn't really happen with cannabis. I've had officers on the scene and in court say green tongue is something that they've
I was going to bring that up, Michael. I was going to bring that up. Yeah, this is a real thing. DREs, Todd, are taught that if you smoke cannabis, that it turns your tongue green.
What?
Yeah.
The other one is like leg tremors. People will have tremors as a result of it. So, that's the real problem with the correlation. It doesn't create causation, just like so many other things with cannabis, like the gateway drug and things of that nature. But NHTSA has created and done many studies that have shown that people drive slower, they're more cautious. And the joke that good old late Robert Plattsforn said, you know what cannabis users do when they come up with a stop sign? They wait for the light to turn green.
Exactly.
You got it, Todd.
Yeah.
So I really think that these studies have to be taken with a huge grain of salt, and really the agencies who are conducting them and putting forth them, we have to really see who they're funded by and whether or not they have inherent biases related to it. I know Paul Armentano, who's an expert on this issue and testifies in legislative bodies throughout the country. At one point, there was a study where people that were getting so high, they're like, I don't want to drive. So it's like you have more self-awareness typically under the influence of cannabis than you do under the influence of alcohol, whereas you're under alcohol, you're like, I'm invincible, I'll drive, it doesn't matter, I'm fine, I can do it. And that really as well is a different paradigm than exists in the cannabis space, where people are more self-aware and like, I'm too high, I can't drive. And I've heard people say it multiple times and wait a couple hours or whatever before they do so because they don't feel comfortable or have someone else drive with it. And I don't think I've really ever seen very few people, and I don't know many people that drink a lot anymore, but very few people in the past that I've associated with be like, oh yeah, I'm not drunk, I'm too drunk, I can't drive. It's usually someone else telling you that, not the person internally telling you that.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. Fair enough. Well, on that, we're going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back. I tell him, he says, yeah, right. There's no way that I'm going to stand on one leg and hop around. You guys are crazy. You guys are crazy. Oh, man. Well, you guys, I have an interesting story for you over there in Europe, because there's a German political divide. It's deepening over the Interim Cannabis report, you guys, and its findings. The Adult Use Cannabis Act KCAN-G in force for almost a year and a half and continues to stir debate around German politicians. Since the start of the government's cannabis policy shift, lawmakers have frequently revisited the consequences of this paradigm change. While the governing coalition partners were involved in drafting the legislation, many conservative CDU members of the Bundestag remain highly critical of legal access to the previously prohibited substance. Even before the publication of interim scientific results, their stance was clear. The law needs to be significantly revised or even abolished, they said. The first interim report by EcoCan evaluated the Cannabis Consumption Act and has now been released, and it was compiled by research teams from the Center of Interdisciplinary Addiction Research at the University of Hamburg, the Entry for Health and Society at the University of Dusseldorf, and the Institute of Criminology at the University of Tübingen. EcoCan was commissioned to study the effects of partial legislation on child and youth protection, public health, and cannabis-related crime. The interim findings covered data collected from up to August of 2025, and key findings in the report concludes that no significant changes have occurred since the KCAN came into force compared with the period of prohibition. Consumption rates have remained relatively stable, and cannabis-related health problems have not risen notably. According to the study, while cannabis use among young people continues to decline slightly, a slight increase in cannabis use among adults can still be observed. An estimated 5 million people in Germany use cannabis in 2024, with around 1 million consuming daily or almost daily, and lead researcher Jacob Mathley noted that consumption patterns have remained stable in the short term. Criminologist Georg Kinzing described the reform as the most significant decriminalization in history of the Federal Republic in terms of quantity, and in 2024, at least 100,000 fewer cannabis offenses were recorded than the previous year. However, reductions in prison sentences and police workloads are not yet fully released due to the emergence of new administrative offenses. One of the key objectives of legislation was to reduce the illicit market, and yet the interim report offers no reliable data on how much cannabis is still bought through illegal channels. Well, that's because they can't track it. It is evident, however, that access to the legal supply remains limited. Only around 300 cannabis social clubs currently operate, and covering an estimated 0.1% of demand. Several thousand clubs would be required for nationwide coverage, but many prospective founders face lengthy licensing procedures that hinder operations, and the researchers recommended that the framework conditions for licensing and operating of cultivation associations be simplified. Given the scarcity of CSCs, that is the consumption spaces, demand for telemedicine platforms providing access to medical cannabis is increasing, and in 2024 alone, 100 tons of medical cannabis were sold legally, fueling political suspicion of misuse. EcoCan estimates that 35% of regular consumers now grow their own cannabis, and although the law permits 3 plants and 50 grams at harvest, some growers produce more, sharing within their social circles, and this informal exchange has become an important source for many users, while pharmacies are only occasionally used, and it remains unclear whether all purchases are medical patients. With imports of medical cannabis sharply rising, the report suggests that consumers without medical needs also obtain medical cannabis, and total national demand in 2024 was between 670 and 823 tons, with 12 to 14% of this supplied through legal medical channels. Supporters of the KCAN within the SPD and the Green Party see the findings as validation of their approach, and the SPD legal expert Carmen Wedgie said the data confirms that the legislation of cannabis was the right and long overdue step, while acknowledging that the CSC licensing must be improved to strengthen the legal supply. The Green Party health spokesman Linda Heitman argued it is important to continue consistency along the path we have chosen and to refine existing regulations. She added that since legalization has been carefully managed, there has been no rise in youth consumption, addiction, or traffic risks, and the policy has eased burdens on law enforcement. Georg Wirth, spokesperson for the German Hemp Association, also welcomed the findings, saying it was right and long overdue to finally end the mass prosecution of simple cannabis users. No significant negative effects have been detected, and now is the time to expand legal supply channels in order to ensure greater consumer protection and further reduce the black market, they say. But by contrast, the CDU and the CSU politicians interpret the results as evidence of failure. Alexander Hoffman, CSU regional group leader, claimed that addiction problems among young people are still increasing and that the law has done a disservice to youth protection and road safety. Federal Government Drug Commissioner Hendrik Streeck said undesirable developments are already becoming apparent, particularly in youth protection, adding that early intervention has declined as fewer minors now enter the juvenile justice system. He warned that higher potency cannabis and easy access among young people present growing health risks. And Streeck concluded that the law urgently needs more clarity, more enforceability, and above all, a clear focus on prevention and help for young people, arguing that otherwise it will go in the wrong direction. Although EcoCan's conclusion states that there is currently no urgent need for action with regard to changing the KCAN-G's, several CDU politicians have called for the law's complete repeal. Thuringia's CDU minister, President Mario Voigt, described it as absolutely the wrong approach to what Germany needs from the start to finish. Interesting. They don't know what to do over there in Germany. They got all this good data of the policies of the program working, and all these naysayers are saying, hey, I don't think it's working. What about the children, it sounds like? What about the children?
Protect the kids.
Yes.
What about the kids?
We need more prevention. The numbers are staggering. It's ridiculous.
Staggering. They see no detrimental effect as a result of it.
Yeah.
Except pharmacies. People aren't going to the pharmacies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no!
Well, you know, I find it interesting that they're trying to say that there is undesirable things happening, but they're not pointing to any individual actions. They're just trying to paint these broad brushes of like, oh, you know what? It's just such a detriment to society, but they can't point to any societal downfall or things that are actually happening that are negative side effects of cannabis consumption amongst the Germans.
No, Germany has been trying to get things right,
Mm-hmm.
so you got to give them credit for that, right? They've really been trying to legalize and make it right, but they seem to be going in circles again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone's trying to do it right. Everyone's trying to regulate it. Everyone's trying to, criminalize it, require it only be purchased from businesses when it's a plant that people should be able to grow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, realistically, the right thing is to free the plant, to deschedule it, decriminalize it, and allow adults to be able to invite in it how they choose and how they see fit, as long as they're not hurting somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a fact. And that's the problem. That's the fallacy why all these programs are failing.
Yeah.
Because it's ridiculous. What other crop goes for $1,000 a pound? I bet the farmers in this country would love any of their crops to do that. I think saffron, maybe. There's a couple. Very rare. But other than that, it doesn't exist. I mean, how much do you buy tomatoes for? $2.99 a pound? Come on.
Well, it depends on if you're getting the organic ones or not, Michael.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
That's true. You want to hear a funny story? I was raising money for a greenhouse company. I used to be in the food business where we built vertical indoor farms, right? So we're raising money. We're talking to one of our investors, and he's reading the paper, and he goes, "Boys, how much you sell a pound of tomatoes for?" And we said, yeah, we're doing high end stuff, so it's like $3, retail, a couple of bucks, wholesale. And then he goes, well, how much you sell a pound of pot for?
Mm-hmm.
And back then it was like $4,000 a pound.
Yeah.
And we said $4,000 a pound. He pulled down his paper and he goes, Why don't we sell some pot for a little while?
Yeah.
And that literally funded our cultivation here in Nevada. So
Wow.
it was a, you're right, Michael. It's there's no other crop out there that costs this much. And the reason it costs this much is because it's illegal, right? The risk to grow has increased the price. Now that it's legal, we're trying to keep the price way up there because that's just tradition, right? But it's ridiculous.
Not only that, it grows like a weed.
It grows like a weed. That is a weed, for God's sakes, right?
Come on.
Oh man.
It is silly. So you're thinking that we should be able to go to a, some kind of like a plant store, get your little seedling and then grow it at home and do whatever the fuck you want with it. I agree.
I don't necessarily
Just
have
go
a problem
to a
with
nursery,
that.
right? I like that idea.
But then the thing about it, the one downside about that is that if you were to purchase your plants from a nursery, Todd, is I think you'd have to have a specialty cannabis section because there's a lot of other bugs and stuff that live on all of these other plants at nurseries. And cannabis is very, very, very finicky, to a lot of those different
are we freeing
different
the plant
bugs.
or we're not freeing the plant?
Well, I'd like to have it in its own free section and, I'm saying a perfect indoor environment kind of thing.
That seems a little controlled.
Yeah, I see what you did there, Todd. I see what you did there. That was cute.
Yeah, and I have to say, Jason, as someone who does own a nursery, technically, we deal with that with every plant. It doesn't matter, how it is. And it's really how those people take care of the plant, whether or not be mango trees or flowers or anything of that nature. It's still dealing with the same issues. And the idea is you go there and you inspect the plant and you get ones that are pest-free, right? Because even these specialty shops for years, you'd go to one of the grows that are because in California, right, you can sell the plants and clones and seedlings and stuff like that. You'd go there and you'd be like, this one looks like it has mites on it. This one has this, and you don't take it, or you take it home and you quarantine it first and you put it in your own separate grow room, make sure it doesn't have any plants or bugs and get rid of any of them before you integrate it.
That's a whole lot of extra work for a home grower, and you're assuming that the average home grower is going to have a quarantine room and know how to, that's just way over the top.
So then just buy the seeds and grow them from seed.
I'm fine with that too. I don't have a problem. I'm just saying that's a lot of work. I think if they're going to be sold in nurseries, they need to have a special cannabis section that's like bug-free, pathogen-free, so people know that they're getting clean plants when they purchase it from a nursery. I don't think that's that much to ask.
Well, but they don't do that with roses. They don't do that with oranges. They don't do that with mango trees.
Yeah, but the good nurseries and the good producers are controlling for that so that their trees don't have them. So I think any nursery, would do the same thing and not want to sell a plant with bugs on it. And I don't think that there's much of a difference between a cannabis plant and a regular vegetable plant or anything like that, maybe having bugs on it.
There's a huge difference, Michael. Huge difference.
Yeah, but just like before it was tested, people will just spray it with shit. That's just what will happen.
Oh yeah, just give it a good old little dose of Eagle 20 and it'll be just fine. Just dip it in the Avid and you'll be doing all right, right, Todd?
I don't think so. I wouldn't do that, but I'm just saying that's what people will do because that's what they've done in the past.
Or use any other product that could be organic or natural. You can use pests and but I think regardless, once you bring it home or if you have it outside or inside, it's a problem no matter what kind of plant that you have. Here in the summer, it's impossible for me to keep aphids and stuff off my bean plants. I just can't do it. And it's cool because you see all the ladybugs come in and start, naturally just start coming in. But it is very difficult with any crop to do so. So I think that's the grower and where you purchase it from. But we go through Home Depot and stuff and look at plants sometimes or other nurseries and like, ooh, I'm not getting this one because of the way it looks, right? Because it looks like it has mites on it or anything like that. So
it's Mother Nature. Some plants thrive, some plants die, and some only grow about half. You know what I mean? So it's just the way it is.
But I agree, Jason. But I think the good actors, will have those sections and be like, okay, we're making sure, taking extra precautions potentially that these are bug free and stuff like that. Or again, you buy your own seeds and you grow them from seed, and then you can control that environment from the beginning. Steve
Blessingham in the chat, he says roses usually have their own section in the nurseries. Just saying, you know. Well, on that, we're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Michael Minardi. Michael's out there in the great red state of Florida helping patients, caregivers, and businesses navigate the complex legal industry of cannabis out in Florida. You can find him at his own law office at Minardi Law. It is none other than Mr. Michael Minardi.
Good morning to everyone on the West Coast. And good afternoon and high noon to everyone on the East Coast.
Oh, yeah.
From trips to treatments, how psychedelics could revolutionize anti-inflammatory medicine. This is in the Psychology and Psychiatry Journal and Inflammatory Disorders. Once synonymous with hippies and hallucinatory experiences, psychedelic drugs are now being explored for their medical potential. The stigma of that era resulted in research being suppressed by drug laws, yet with mental health treatments hitting limits, scientists have returned to the controversial corner of medicine. It wasn't controversial in the 70s until the hippies came along. Substances like psilocybin, found in magic mushrooms, and ayahuasca are now being taken seriously by scientists and doctors, not for the visions they induce, but for the healing potential they possess. Initially, the focus on treating mental health conditions like depression, where currently prescribed drugs only help a minority of patients. But these investigations have now expanded to include diseases driven by inflammation, which psychedelic drugs may help reduce by calming down the immune system. In both human cells and laboratory dishes and animal studies, psychedelic drugs like DMT, LSD, and a compound called RDOI can block the release of inflammatory molecules called cytokines. These protein molecules fuel conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, asthma, and even depression, as well as increasing brain damage following traumatic brain injury. Advantage over steroids. These drugs have considerable advantage over typical anti-inflammatory medications like steroids because psychedelics appear to work without suppressing healthy immune function, which is a major problem with steroids. Significantly, these laboratory findings are beginning to be confirmed in studies in humans. Evidence is growing that psychedelics could hold the key to managing inflammation, one of the body's central drivers of many chronic diseases, including depression, arthritis, and heart conditions. Take psilocybin, the active ingredient in mushrooms. In a study involving 60 healthy participants, just one dose was enough to significantly lower levels of two key inflammatory molecules, TNF-alpha and IL-6, over the following week. However, not all studies have shown the same clear results. Some only had a few participants, and others were complicated by the fact that some participants had previous drug experience, which could affect the results. One big challenge with studying psychedelics in medical research is that it's very hard to hide who gets the real drugs and who gets the placebo. When someone has a strong psychedelic experience, it's obvious they didn't just take a sugar pill. That makes it challenging to interpret the results, especially for aspects like mood, which can be significantly influenced by expectations. Even changes in the body, such as inflammation, might be affected by the placebo effect. Meanwhile, the powerful Amazonian brew ayahuasca, which contains the psychedelic DMT, showed promising results in both healthy people and patients with hard-to-treat depression. In one study, those given ayahuasca had reduced levels of an inflammatory marker called CRP. The bigger the drop in CRP, the greater their mood improvements. This suggests that reducing inflammation may play a role in improving mental health and adds to growing evidence that conditions like depression and schizophrenia are connected to inflammation in the human body. Scientists think psychedelics mainly work by acting on something called the 5-HT2A receptor, a part of the brain cells that usually respond to serotonin, often nicknamed the happy hormone. The receptor sets off chain chemical reactions inside cells. But here's the surprising part. The anti-inflammatory effects of psychedelics might not rely on the same processes that cause the mind-altering experiences, such as certain calcium signals and other well-studied pathways. Indeed, researchers believe different, less understood mechanisms may be involved, though they haven't quite figured out exactly what those are yet. In one animal study on asthma, a chronic inflammatory condition, two drugs with similar psychedelic effects, RDOI and RDOTFM, had vastly different anti-inflammatory results. The first drug completely reversed inflammation, while the other did nothing. This further suggests that anti-inflammatory effects may be separate from psychedelic effects, potentially opening the door to developing medication without tripping. The next generation of anti-inflammatory treatments may come from what is called hippie drugs, psychedelic informed but psychedelic inactive compounds. These are medications designed to mimic the therapeutic benefits of psychedelics without causing hallucinations. Several such drugs have been known to been identified, such as DLX-001 and DLX-159, which are being developed by Delix Therapeutics, an American pharmaceuticals company. These experimental drugs show responses indicating antidepressant effects without causing a trip. This could transform how we treat a host of conditions tied to inflammation, without the regulatory complications or patients' reluctance often associated with psychedelics. Although research is still in the early stages, evidence is building that psychedelics or new drugs developed from them could become a new, entirely type of anti-inflammatory treatment. As studies begin to include people with long-term inflammatory illnesses and use more rigorous and innovative placebo-controlled designs, we may find that the mind-bending world of psychedelics holds unexpected tools for fighting disease. The potential is separate. The healing properties from the hallucinogenic effects could revolutionize treatment for countless patients suffering from conditions where inflammation plays a role. I think this is great. I wonder if kind of like the endocannabinoid system will find some sort of psychedelic system at some point in our bodies, as you know, it's entirely possible. And now we know that it affects all parts of the brain, not just those receptors that they're saying in another study I covered last week. And we know that it is being used for depression, inflammation, anti-death and aging issues. So I think that psychedelics are more in tune to our body, and I'm sure that we have certain receptors or information in our body that accepts these as a medicine, a natural medicine given to us by this earth, which we are a part of, than the pharmaceutical drugs that cause people to be further suicidal.
I think you're right. I think that is going to be the biggest discovery in psilocybin, research. And another paper was just released just the other day from Emory University, and they said that psilocybin is also it contributes to anti-aging. It saves your cells, and I think that this announcement and this study is really going to unlock the is a key to unlock this research, because as humans, right, we all want to look better, stay younger, right, and live longer. And if psilocybin can do that, I believe that this is going to change the way we look at psilocybin, because we're so, selfish, right? It's the selfishness of the human that's going to create the industry, right?
Todd, that just sounds silly. Like silly sided.
It sounds silly.
Like silly sided.
I see what you said.
Yes.
Look, every infomercial, right? You either live longer, grows your hair, or gets you laid. Right. So if you can hit one of those categories, you got a hit on your hands, right?
Right. And then to not have all the side effects, right? Death. I can't even imagine how long the side effects are.
So you guys are going to tell me that mushrooms are going to get marketed basically as America's new Botox replacement?
No, it's not a Botox replacement, but more of a fountain of youth.
If it keeps you young, if it keeps you younger, yeah, that's a Botox replacement. That's why people get Botox. That's why people get Botox, because as they age, they get wrinkles.
Get Botox to get rid of the wrinkles, right? They don't.
That's my point.
Botox to
if you stay young, you don't get wrinkles.
Regenerate their cells.
If you stay young,
Botox is botulism that you're pumping into your body, which doesn't sound too good to me.
If you stay young, Todd, you don't get wrinkles.
Just can't even imagine we know the long-term effects of Botox yet.
Oh, please! There's going to be millions of lawsuits, right? Just like Ozempic. What's starting to happen with Ozempic. You're thin, right? But your bones are brittle and you have no muscle and you're about to die. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
So I know there was a study as well that mushrooms have more in commonality with us than they do with trees.
Yes.
As far as that network goes.
When they say commonality, what points do they actually point to that? Because, you know, mushrooms are the one thing that scientists can't say is made up from elements of this earth. So what points do they point to that as far as having this commonality?
You know, I don't exactly know. I think they were talking about DNA and the makeup of it.
They all are connected, right? They're all there's a network of
but trees talk to each other too. So you know what I mean?
Do they?
Yeah, there's a whole thing talking about how
network mostly.
Yeah, there's a whole network
right
of how
through the mushroom network.
Yeah.
Right. It's the mushrooms as cables.
So you're telling me that basically mushrooms are basically the telecommunications network for plants.
I like it. Go ahead, mushroom. You're on the air. Go ahead, mushroom.
Mm-hmm. Oh man. So I guess if you're smoking cannabis while on mushrooms, those would technically be mushroom clouds.
I see what you did there.
I like it. He's on fire today.
Yeah, he's on fire.
On fire.
Yeah. Yes. Well, this was a fun little psychedelic trip. This is good news overall, and you know what I'm saying, hopefully we get some more information like this, and you know, some more clarity. I really would like to know what is their specific points as far as what they're saying is in relation to us, in relation with these mushrooms. I would like to know more about that. That I think would be super interesting. But on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Well, mushrooms aren't plants, so that's the first thing.
It needs to get restarted. It's not working again for some reason, Elias. Yep.
Dude on the
nope, wrong
still
one.
On the air?
No. Yeah.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app,
where you can pay like it's nobody's business.
Every legend has a humble beginning.
In world news, leaders are gathering today for the annual summit.
I want to tell you something, Che. The government is watching us through the television.
Oh, John.
Look, right there. They're trying to hack into my TV box.
We're still not able to hack into the TV box, sir.
Ha! But they can't. I've rebuilt the entire electronic system, and it sends and receives signals through quantum phase space. They'll never get in. Engage target.
In other news, local authorities are investigating a series of strange atmospheric phenomena reported by residents.
Ma'am, we're with the federal government. We need to ask you some questions.
John?
Is there a problem? We've been trying to penetrate your TV box for over 6 months. I told you they were trying to watch us through the TV, but you didn't believe me. We can't get in, and to be frank, we have no idea what you've created. Yeah, that's the point. It's called privacy. You know what the Fourth Amendment guarantees? All we know is that we can't get inside. We want to know if you can create one for us.
QUX. Even the government wants one.
I'm down with that, Todd. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app,
where you can pay.
Oh, and we're back. Oh, he jumped the gun. You guys. Make sure that you also check out our video on 9/11 with Congressman Kurt Weldon and Congressman Dana Rohrabacher about everything that happened and didn't happen on 9/11.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app,
where you can pay like it's nobody's business.
because it isn't. It's what everyone's been clamoring for. It's finally here.
Secure every payment. Your data stays private. QUX will never sell your data for profit, period. Pay friends, family, contacts instantly. No hidden fees. No limits. Spend on the move.
With this patented technology, you can use debit, credit, bank transfers, cash cards, and even crypto completely offline.
Amounts transferred through the Pay app reach their destination instantly. Transfers in a flash. As quick as sending a text. No more waiting around like crypto. Are you ready for the future of payments? The state of the art for money is finally here.
Data privacy and security protocols trusted by militaries and banks worldwide. QUX Pay, the Pay app.
Available as an app and point of sale system, personal and corporate accounts available. Go to QUXPay.com and start using the Pay app today.
I'd love to hear what you guys think of it as well after you guys do.
Also, we are back.
Oh, yes, we are back, and we are going to roll right into the golden voice himself, Mr. Todd Denkin. Todd is a creative storyteller with his golden voice. He's a Telly Award-winning director-producer with over 35 years of extensive experience in television, film production, and he's been a featured expert on various cannabis panels, TV shows, and news programs throughout his lifetime. He's been interviewed and quoted in numerous blogs, newspapers, and magazines, and he co-authored the book Money Matters. Because you know why, Todd? Money does matter because you can't do shit without it.
Money does matter.
Yes. But now he's hosting Becoming the King of Pot on YouTube and other streaming platforms. It is none other than Mr. Todd Denkin.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, everybody. Happy Taco Tuesday. To everyone, of course.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, I have some pretty good news, I think. As terminally ill patients will be able to use medical marijuana in Pennsylvania hospitals under a new bipartisan bill. New bipartisan bill dubbed Ryan's Law is making its way through the Pennsylvania legislature, aiming to provide terminally ill patients the ability to use medical marijuana within a hospital setting. Bill championed by John Kane, a Democrat, draws his inspiration from the poignant story of Ryan Bartell, a cancer patient whose experience highlighted the stark contrast in medical cannabis access across states. Bartell, after struggling with the debilitating sedation caused by opioids in California, found significant relief and improved quality of life through medical cannabis in Washington state. The story underscores the critical need for compassionate care options patients facing life-limiting illnesses. Ryan's Law specifically outlines provisions for the use of non-smoking medical cannabis products, recognizing the potential health risks associated with inhalation, particularly for vulnerable patients. To ensure patient safety and responsible administration, the bill mandates the establishment of clear storage guidelines for these products within hospitals. Furthermore, it requires hospitals to develop and implement comprehensive usage policies, which would likely include protocols for administration, dosage tracking, and potential interactions with other medications. Aspect of the bill is its carefully balanced approach to institutional autonomy and patients' rights. While Ryan's Law would permit the use of medical cannabis, it does not obligate hospitals to proactively recommend its use or include it in discharge plans. Distinction acknowledges the varying medical philosophies and operational capacities of healthcare institutions. Importantly, the bill also provides a safeguard for hospitals. It can temporarily suspend the practice of allowing medical marijuana use if federal enforcement actions related to cannabis arise. However, it explicitly states the suspension cannot be based solely on cannabis's classification as Schedule I drug under federal law, a point of contention that often hinders state-level cannabis reforms. Provision seeks to protect institutions while acknowledging the evolving legal landscape surrounding cannabis. Ongoing legislative efforts regarding Ryan's Law run parallel to a broader and more contentious debate in Pennsylvania, legalization of adult-use marijuana. Governor Josh Shapiro, a Democrat, has been a vocal proponent of adult-use legalization, advocating for its inclusion in the state budget. The administration emphasizes the importance of achieving consensus on the issue and, crucially, incorporating robust equality provisions to address the historical injustices and proportionate impact of cannabis prohibition on marginalized communities. However, the path to adult use legalization has been fraught with political hurdles. Republican Senator Dan Laughlin, who has introduced his own legalization bill, believes that the House of Representatives should pass his legislation to serve as a basis for negotiation. This suggests a desire for bicameral approach to drafting a final bill, potentially indicating a willingness for compromise within the GOP. Conversely, a House-passed bill proposing a state-run sales model akin to Pennsylvania state-controlled liquor sales, a swift rejection in the Senate. Divergence in preferred sales models, private versus state-run, highlights a significant ideological split that will need to be reconciled for any successful legislation efforts. Adding to the complexity, the leading Republican gubernatorial debate, Stacey Garrity, has largely evaded direct questions on adult use legalization. Republican? Evading questions? Shocking. Skepticism has primarily directed at Governor Shapiro's revenue projections, suggesting that the financial benefits of legalization may be overstated or not adequately justified. The stance reflects a common conservative concern regarding the potential economic and social impacts of expanded cannabis access. Intriguingly, some Democrats believe that a federal scheduling of marijuana, or a federal rescheduling of marijuana, moving it from its current Schedule I classification, would provide significant political cover for hesitant Republicans in Pennsylvania. The argument is that if cannabis were no longer federally designated as a drug with a high potential for abuse and no accepted medical use, would ease the concerns of Republicans who are wary of defying federal law. Really? And I guess it's unless it's pedophilia. Or facing potential political backlash. This highlights how federal policy continues to cast long shadow over state-level cannabis reform. Despite what appears to be a strong bipartisan support for adult use legalization, the legislative process has remained largely stalled due to persistent opposition from within the Republican Party. This opposition often stems from a combination of concerns about public safety and moral objection. Whose morality, though, are they trying to control? Nevertheless, a growing number of Republicans are beginning to view legalization not as a vice, as a potential economic opportunity, recognizing the substantial tax revenue and job creation regulated cannabis market could generate. Ongoing debate in Pennsylvania reflects a national trend where states grapple with the complex social, economic, and political dimensions of cannabis reform. Ryan's Law serving as a poignant reminder, the human element, the heart of these discussions. I'm Todd Denkin with Iodine News, and what do you guys think about using weed in hospitals? I think it's a great move.
I'm all for this, Todd, but the question is, what delivery methods are they going to allow? Like, are they going to create a smoking section at these hospitals for these
They
patients?
said non-smokable, so it'll be some sort of edible, tincture, pill, suppository.
I mean, my thing is this: all of those types of things you could just use, and they're never going to know in the first place. So I don't know why they need to have a policy.
Store them for you, and they're going to administer them for you and measure your dosage. And
I don't think they'll be able to maintain their federal funding and be able to do that, Todd.
Oh God, come on with that federal funding thing. That the federal funding thing is a joke. And there was a case out of Arizona it was a college case at the school, and the court said there's not been one entity or agency who's ever been threatened with removing federal funding for cannabis use. So I think that's a good gateway for hospitals to say that they can't use it because of federal funding, but I don't think legally it's an actually legitimate argument. Also, so we have that, and you asked that they can use it. I've had people had their cannabis medicine, whether or not it be tinctures or oils or RSO, confiscated from them in hospitals and said, no, you can't use this while you're here, no matter what. And I have also had hospitals being like, listen, you want to use your cannabis, go outside, go across, get in your wheelchair, go across the street to smoke it. So it's different. And realistically, Usually they're pushed by a caregiver or a family member, but yeah, 100%, right? But and they did actually pass a bill here a couple years ago that would have allowed certain types of facilities to allow it in their facilities if they chose to do so in the non-smoking form as well. So I think, just like most doctors who are knowledgeable about this medicine, it's a product that they should have in their toolbox that they should allow patients to use. And instead of requiring patients to get addicted to opiates while they're in the hospital for 3 or 4 days, they should use something, especially if they're patients before they go into the hospital and they're using that already to manage their pain. They shouldn't be not allowing them to use it. This is a medicine in those states that it's medically legal, and there should be no reason why it shouldn't be treated like that across the board under all circumstances.
And what they're focusing on, are terminally ill patients. And that's their first class of patients that will be able to use this, so they can have a little better quality of life, in their last days, weeks, months, whatever it is that they have, right? So, nobody wants to be a opioided out zombie, right? You want to eat an edible, take a tincture, smoke a vape, and just feel better and able to have a conversation with maybe your family who's sitting around, and wanting to hang out and spend good quality time, for that last few days, weeks, months.
I'm personally I'm all for this as a thing if it can actually manifest itself into reality. I'm all for it. I think, I do think that they should allow for people to be able to consume flower as far as smoking, though, but at the same time, I think it's a great concept and whatnot. But again, I don't understand. And even OG Grandma in the chat, he says UCLA's federal funding was threatened. So we'll see what's happened. I mean, Pennsylvania is the Commonwealth, and a lot of things do happen there first. So it is possible that they would allow it under this type of a situation. You know what I mean? But we'll see. We shall see. And like I said, I'm going to remain hopefully optimistic that something like this will be able to go through. And I'd love to see something like this happen in more hospitals than just in Pennsylvania.
I agree. And I agree with you, Michael. It is it's just a gateway to, the proper usage and forced education by doctors, because most doctors today don't know anything about cannabis, right?
Yeah.
All they want to do is prescribe what, pharmaceutical bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And, I've even been to a doctor and I had some basal cell carcinoma on my face, right? And I had this surgery where it was removed. And I said to the doctor, I'm going to use this hemp CBD oil instead of the petroleum jelly that you're giving me.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, you're using, CBD? What is that? Like,
yeah.
he literally, I was embarrassed for him. That didn't even know what CBD was. You know what I mean?
Well, hopefully they'll all know more about that, especially after Trump posted that CBD video on his Truth Social page last week.
Oh, yeah, that's what the doctors are going to do. They're going to rush to learn about CBD because
it's happening.
Trump posted something on Truth Social.
It's happening already.
I would hope it to happen, but I'm sure the doctors that are against it are still against it in their own, and they're paid off so much by pharmaceutical
that's
companies.
True.
And a quick response, at least with a quick AI search or Google search, it said that the funding for UCLA that was threatened was because of a political battle that included not only cannabis research, but hundreds of medical and scientific grants. So it wasn't just centered around cannabis. It was them getting cut off for other reasons as well.
I just got to ask the question, Michael, are you using ChatGPT for that, to find that?
No, I just Googled that. So, and there's a couple articles that come up, and it says the federal judge orders the 500 health and science grants at UCLA to be restored as well.
Got it.
No, I'm not a big fan of ChatGPT.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because ChatGPT is super biased. I only use Grok also too. Shout out to Grok and everybody over there at X. And ChatGPT is super biased, bro. ChatGPT doesn't like weed, and it's super woke. It's got like two big fouls over it.
This woke me.
Plus it was created. Plus Sam Bankman-Fried is not a good guy, bro. He's not
super
a good guy. That's not a good guy. Yeah. And on that, we're gonna go into our final commercial, and we're gonna be right back.
Super woke me.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
And we are back, you guys. Well, I have two great stories for you to end the day on, you guys. One of them, I think this one is a little gaslighty, but you know, we'll see. Because they say brain stimulation may reduce cannabis addiction in people with multiple sclerosis. I never even knew you could be addicted to cannabis. I thought that was, I think that's crazy already, but nonetheless. More than half of the people with multiple sclerosis use cannabis products to ease sleep problems, chronic pain, and muscle spasms. Among other common symptoms, experts say 20% may develop cannabis use disorder, better known as CUD, a condition marked by disruptive, hard to control, and often heavy use. In the pilot study, the research team investigated the effects of the at-home transcranial direct current stimulation, better known as TDCS device, combined with guided mindfulness meditation in 47 women diagnosed with both multiple sclerosis and cannabis use disorder. Over 4 weeks, patients completed daily TDCS sessions with average cannabis use falling from about 5 days per week to 2 days per week after treatment. The device passes an electrical current through 2 electrodes placed on the scalp, targeting the prefrontal cortex of the part of the brain involved in decision-making and emotional regulation. The stimulation is thought to enhance neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to adapt and form new connections. By hosting this process during mindfulness exercises, the researchers say patients may find it easier to relax, manage cravings, and gradually reduce their need for cannabis. In a quote, "Our initial study suggests that at-home transcranial direct current stimulation may offer a safe, portable option that people with cannabis use disorder can use daily to support their recovery," said study lead author Giuseppina Pilloni, a PhD and assistant professor in the Department of Neuralgia at NYU Grossman School of Medicine. Pilloni notes that there are currently no approved treatments for long-term and heavy cannabis use, and the disorder has been linked to problems with memory, attention, and mood, and it can reduce overall quality of life. Previous researchers showed that potential of TDCS to treat a variety of psychiatric and neurological disorders, most notably depression, and the new investigation published online in May 8th in the journal Drug and Alcohol Dependence is the first to demonstrate clinical results for TDCS in patients diagnosed with both multiple sclerosis and cannabis use disorder, Pilloni says. As part of the study, participants received 20 sessions of TDCS, 5 sessions per week, each lasting 20 minutes. And each session was paired with guided online mindfulness meditation, and all treatments were administered remotely via telehealth, allowing participants to interact with the researchers in real time. The study compared outcomes among participants who received active stimulations and those who received a placebo that mimicked the feeling of an electrical current without delivering stimulation. The findings showed a reduction in withdrawal symptoms, including anxiety, sleep disturbances, decreased appetite, and irritability. And they say, cannabis use disorder is often overlooked and underrated, said the study senior author Leigh Chavret, a PhD, a professor in the Department of Neurology at NYU Grossman School of Medicine. This study highlights that the transcarnal direct current stimulation may be a scalable, accessible intervention that could fill a critical gap in care. Chavret adds that because of the promising findings, the research team has launched a nationwide pilot study to investigate the therapy for cannabis use disorder in people with multiple sclerosis, and the team also plans to expand the current study to a larger group of men and women with multiple sclerosis and to examine how reducing cannabis use may not only improve daily functioning but also reduce symptoms of neurological disease. Funding for the study was provided by the National Institutes of Health grant R21DA055427, you guys. Well, I guess you know what this study proved to me is that CUD, better known as cannabis use disorder, is pretty much just all in your head. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Well, I don't know if it's all in your head. I think there are some people who are allergic to cannabis.
I think allergic to cannabis is a big difference than having CUD. There's a big difference there. I do believe I know people that are really allergic to cannabis, like they can't touch it, the leaves, you know what I'm saying, they break out in hives and stuff like that. So I do know that people are actually allergic to cannabis. That is a fact. I don't dispute that. But, you know,
if they can be allergic, they can't be addicted.
There's no addictive components in cannabis. The most addictive component in cannabis is the fact that you have an oral fixation, Todd.
This thing, right.
Yeah, I agree. And there's definitely no physical withdrawal symptoms of it. And I think a lot of these substances it's in your mind and it's what you want to do. And it's a crutch that you use potentially, or it's something you do for enjoyment. But I don't think there was a great show out of Amsterdam years and years ago, but it was talking about, the Amsterdam laws and stuff like that. And it was comparing, and I forget what it was. But it was before we had any medical in this country. And he's like, I feel bad, that people can't go home. It's like, is it addictive? Because I want to do it every day because I enjoy it and it makes me feel good. Then is sex addictive if I want to do that every day because it makes me feel good? Where do you draw the line as far as addiction goes? And I had a substance troubled person class in college. It was technically a grad school level class, and it was great. The professor was a substance counselor for years, and he's like, listen, they at that point in time determine substance abuse disorder. Does it, affect one or more of your major life activities like social, business, finances, etc.? And he's like, otherwise, is it really something addictive that's affecting your life in a negative way? Because you're using it enjoyable. He's like, we have to really regulate these things and determine what is addiction, what is a negative addiction for people. And as we know in this country with obesity and diabetes on the rise, sugar is clearly a significant addiction that affects people's health in comparison to cannabis, right? So it was just very interesting how he phrased that. And that was back in, God, aging myself here, like 1997, that I took that class, and he was, again, a substance abuse counselor, and that was his position on it after seeing many people that get through the program, mostly because they get arrested and then they have to go to rehab or something like that, right? But it's very interesting. That's why people will buy a gun and say no on the form.
Yeah, they're starting to get in trouble for that. Wasn't there an article the other day about that?
That was a great one. Addicted to oxygen myself.
Yeah, exactly. That's fair. That's fair. I love me some, oxygen. Oxygen is great.
It definitely.
You ever go to the oxygen bar?
I have not.
Oh, bro, those are great. They're just, it's kind of like walking into a casino, bro, but it's kind of like mainlining oxygen, Todd.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's serious.
Yeah, no, I haven't done that, but they do have oxygen bars at casinos. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you, oxygen bars are great. I'm a big fan of oxygen bars. Well, this was an interesting study. I mean, glad that the researchers are doing research on this, and this shock treatment on the brain, I think is probably going to be good for a lot of other things. I would think that since it's dealing with neuroplasticity and whatnot, it would be really good for people with memory issues and things like that. That's what I think that would probably help the most with, because a lot of times people, when they lose their memory, they lose their neuroplasticity in the brain in relation to, and so that causes kind of like a hardening and unwillingness to want to learn new things, to remember things.
As we've seen, maybe the psychedelics are doing that with that article I did on the Alzheimer's and stuff, and we know that it does rewire different brain synapses, so that's probably electrical currents being hit up through it without actually the electrical currents.
Yeah, so maybe we need to do a whole shock mushroom mental treatment center, Michael.
I like it.
Where you get on mushrooms, and we'll do these electrical blasts into the neuroplasty of the brain, and just just shake everything up and make everything electrified in there.
Yeah, my kind of thing was you just need the mushrooms, not the electric. But hey, if we want to do both,
2 in 1, bro. 2 in 1. That way you get to the destination faster.
That's just higher doses of mushrooms.
Yeah. Well, we could do that too. We could do that too. Well, I got one final story for you guys. Oh man, they say Trump and rescheduling marijuana would be a game changer. Some GOP senators say, Todd, what you got to say about that? Look at that. Several
will be a game changer.
We'll
finally do something that the people want.
Several GOP senators tell Marijuana Moment that if President Donald J. Trump ultimately moves forward with marijuana rescheduling, it would be a game changer for the future federal cannabis reform, they say. In a series of interviews on Capitol Hill late last week, Senator Dan Sullivan, Republican from Arkansas, and Lisa Murkowski, Republican from Dan Sullivan, Republican from Alaska, and Lisa Murkowski, Republican from Alaska, and Kevin Kramer, Republican from North Dakota, weighed in on the pending rescheduling proposal, which Trump said in late August would be decided imminently after endorsing the policy change while campaigning for his second term. Sullivan, who has previously sponsored legislation to promote research into medical cannabis for military veterans, said that when Trump gets behind something, it has an impact, implying that completing the rescheduling process could move the needle with Republican members on the fence about cannabis reform.
Especially if he's standing behind a young girl.
Whoa. Senator Murkowski, for her part, said that if cannabis is moved from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act as proposed, it's totally a game changer. He says, I'm interested. I'm curious. That he's weighing in on this because I don't know he's done all that before, the senator said, who has previously expressed openness to cannabis banking reform and codifying states' rights to enact their own marijuana laws, he added. But Kramer echoed Murkowski's point, stating that rescheduling would, in quotes, would certainly be a game changer for the party, and I do think it would be easier to do some of these other things in the way of marijuana reform, referring to incremental proposals such as those focused on industry banking access. In a quote, legalization across the board would be a problem, I think, but I wouldn't put anything past him. I've often thought about it. What would be the ramifications within our very diverse base on this topic if he went full throttled? He said. The increments we've talked about before, whether it's something on the banking side or something a little more than that on the medical side, he could make a change, no question about it. He's all about that, rescheduling, and he has said it. If he reschedules, that's a big deal, Kramer said. I'm open-minded to some of it, and I want it to be incremental. I want to recognize states are changing the rules already, and we should probably pay some attention to that, he says. I'm not a personal level comfortable with the rescheduling myself, but you've got to be pragmatic about this, he said. It changes the conversation for sure, and no question about it, in both parties, between the libertarian right and the far left. They all meet back here somewhere. But meanwhile, one of Trump's longtime advisors, Roger Stone, recently said that his administration has an opportunity to move forward with marijuana rescheduling or even broader legalization in a way that Democrats who regularly tout the reform failed to achieve when they controlled the White House and Congress. The comments came in response to the president's social media post late last month, where he shared a video that touted the health benefits of hemp-derived CBD, particularly for seniors. The Republican Senate sponsor of a bipartisan cannabis banking bill said recently that Trump rescheduling marijuana would be an important domino to advance his legislation, and whether Trump ultimately decides to move forward with rescheduling remains to be seen. And despite his endorsement of the policy change on the campaign trail ahead of his election for a second term, he declined to restate that support when asked about it during a briefing late last month, though he did say a decision would come within weeks. Well, and decision is going to come, but it's going to come at some point in time, and everybody wants to rush this issue, but I'm in no hurry at all, and I can't wait to see what he says about this and what you guys have to say about this. Sounds like more Republicans.
More political theater.
Sounds like more Republicans are coming around on the issue, Todd. What do you got to say about that?
Already?
Yeah.
It's about time.
Yep.
Talking about freedom here, right?
Yeah. Trust me. It's better late than never. I'm all supportive of it.
You know,
better late than never when a Republican is involved. But if a Democrat comes on board and changes their views, you're like, oh, what are they doing? They're all wishy-washy.
I support them. I support them.
I understand you guys in your party politics, but the bottom line is they're all politicians. They all play the same game. Mm-hmm. They all avoid questions. They all change their sentiment sometimes with popular vote and results. They all pander to their base when they have to. And, it's something that people just have to start being honest about. And cannabis criminalization is one of the biggest human rights violations in this country. Our law enforcement could do so much more in protecting and stopping violence in this country if they didn't have 4 officers, 6 officers, 8 officers on the side of the road every time someone gets pulled over because it smells like cannabis, and really actually do some good and protect the people and serve the people as opposed to destroy and criminalize the people. So I understand it's too long. It's been going on forever, but I think on both sides of the aisle it has been. This isn't an issue. Biden, how long did it take? He said, oh, we're going to do this. And then
he's the gaslighter.
It took forever. Obama seemed pro. He didn't do anything eventually on it, right?
He was never pro.
So I just think it continues to be an issue of how much money is the DEA and law enforcement agencies putting in their pockets every time they say they want to do it to prevent it. How much are the two parties fighting against each other because one wants credit for it versus the other, or specific little things that they do? Are they using the cannabis industry to get other things approved and, budget issues approved? We don't, politics.
We're just pawns on the chessboard, Michael. We're just pawns on the chessboard. Sooner we realize that, but at the same time, if you get a pawn all the way to the end of the chessboard, you just may get your queen back.
Well, it's just why the people have to come together and unite and stop hating each other and judging each other because of what the people in the top are. Everybody wants food. Everyone wants housing. Everybody wants education and be able to live, in a happy life. And I think very few people are doing that these days. More people are living a stressed out life, depressed life than a happy life.
More people need to be about weed for the people, Michael. That would make a big difference right there.
And I think, in states like Florida, and granted the Republicans were less, but even when we passed medical at 71%, and the polls nationwide throughout the country are clearly, it is a somewhat divided issue, but the vast majority of all people in this country want to see this happen.
Fair enough. Any final words, Todd, before we close out?
Yeah, I mean, if, a lot of the governors who on the red side, if they stop going against the will of the people and really listen to the will of the people, and the plant will be freed. when something is voted on by the people who live there, and then some dude says, well, I don't think it's good for us. And he vetoes
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that sentiment. It happened in South Dakota, and it happened in Nebraska for a while.
Virginia, with Glenn Youngkin, that douchebag.
He's a great governor.
Well, we passed medical.
Yeah, Florida too. That's right.
And we're the free state of Florida, but not unless you don't abide by our definition of freedom.
Fair enough. Yeah, these guys, they do need to get it together. If you're going against the will of the people, you need to jump ship, in my opinion. But
you need to move on.
Yes,
that's right.
Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And a big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day, and Cloud Media partners Elias and Kai are somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.